Well, welcome to the last tackle. It's the business end of a season and there's just one regular game left in the Betfred Men's Super League. Right, Kyle Amor is here, and a man who's just cycled from Washington DC all the way to New York. How are you doing, Paul Sculthorpe?
Very well, mate. Very well.
How was the cycle?
It was brilliant. Really well organised. Obviously, raising money for Rugby League Cares. You know, the charity of our sport, and it was fantastic. Seeing some epic places. Setting off obviously in DC and finishing in the Big Apple.
And one of the last tackle regulars was with you, Adrian Morley. How did Moz do?
Yeah, Moz was good. He trained hard, he rode hard, and he played hard.
Sounds like Moz.
And obviously Sean Lunt as well, the former Huddersfield and Leeds star. Lunty was on good form, and 17 riders in total who all did great and raised a load of money for a great cause.
Carl, it's fantastic. Over 60 grand raised for Rugby League Cares.
Yeah, it's important, like any charity, that they continue to do these sort of, these trips to make sure that people get behind, support them. Obviously, with Scully, Lunty and Moz all in there, it really is something special for the charity, and, well done to you and the other 16 riders. So important that they keep raising the money.
Right, let's talk about the games, and let's look at last week first of all. I'm going to start on Thursday night with a result, let's be honest, I don't think anyone saw coming. Leeds at home losing to the Catalans, and that meant Leeds could not finish in the top two and get that all-important home draw. Leeds 8, Catalans 16.
Yeah, no, look, a hammer blow for the Rhinos. You could see afterwards the frustration on Brad Arthur when we interviewed him. He was really direct with everything, really short. He knew a big opportunity gone. Really, we saw in the recent history of grand final winners, I think it's a ridiculous percentage.
How important? Look, you've both been there. How important is that week off and that home tie?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive for the players. Some of the long season, getting a week off. It's massive for the club. It's another game and another gate there. But a huge chance gone for the Rhinos. But what about Catalan Dragons? Where did that come from? Before the ball was kicked, I looked down at their 17, and there was a lot of noticeable names who were back in the fold that haven't been there for a couple of weeks. But having said that, where they've been this season, and particularly, mind you, they've got a couple of wins, of late. But I didn't expect them to go to Headingley Scully and put that performance in. It was bravery, commitment. You would almost think it was them that was chasing the top two.
I think looking at some of the highlights of the game as well. You look at some of the goal line defence from Catalans and just the urgency that they had about them. They've won 3 of the last 4. But as you say, it's that inconsistency throughout the year when, they're going to finish 9th in Super League. Catalan are far better than that. They should be competing and should be involved in these playoffs.
Sorry, Matt, just on that though, those last couple of wins, is that maybe a sign of what's going to come? We know Joe Tompkins was an incredibly tough player. Is he starting to put his little bit of a stamp on that? Because if that's what the Dragons are going to look like in season 2026, 13 players out the door and him bringing some new ones in, then maybe we could see Catalans heading a bit higher up the table.
Then on Friday, Leigh St Helens.
Yes.
2 defeats on the bounce.
Yeah, it was.
After that great run, just what was it, 1 defeat in 11?
Yeah. And do you know what? It's crazy. A lot of it's timed in with Jack Welsby coming back. I just think, probably there's a bit too much
which you'd never have
responsibility on Jack, and it's kind of other players seem to step up when he was out. Tristan Saylor had some of his best games at fullback, and I just think if Saylor's going to be in the team, I'll put it in the column this week, he's got to be at fullback. Wello picked Jack Welsby at 13. I can understand that, and again, I think if you're going to win big games, you've got to have your best players on the field, be it out of position. Jack's big enough to play any position, and you want him around the ball. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and Saints have got a lot to work on, both for the remainder of this year and building for next year.
Because it felt like we were just coming good at the right time, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Before that Wigan game.
It did, but then you're coming up against, you played there to the top 3, and you've come unstuck, and this is where Saints are coming unstuck against the teams that they've got to beat to win a championship, and you've got to give all credit to Leigh. I think they're in tremendous form.
That was my next question. Let's give some credit to Leigh, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of weeks ago, it felt like they'd fell off the boil a bit. The performances, they had a couple of losses in there, but they've got the highest ever place finish in the Super League. They've got a home playoff, which is, I think it's the first time that a playoff game has ever been played at Leigh at this stage of the season. So, credit where credit's due there. But yeah, I mean, for St Helens, they just can't score. I mean, you said Wigan, go a week further back, Hull KR, they didn't get the job done there either. So, it's looking in all probability that St Helens will finish 5th, and Leigh will get an important game against Wakefield or Hull FC, whoever finishes there. But they've got some threat though, haven't they? When all the Leigh players are on and in the groove, they are very, very dangerous. We've said it all year. So. And
I think going back to St Helens, I think you look at Leigh, you look at some of the players they've got, you look at Wigan now with French, Field, Farrand, pace in that side. Saints are just lacking that threat, and to win big games, you've got to score points. You can't just defend. And unfortunately, they're not being able to score points.
No, you're right, Scully. And another thing as well is that it's very difficult as a fan or anyone involved with the game to name St Helens' team, isn't it? They do that much moving around. Joe Batchelor played at loose forward on Friday night. It's so difficult. We're at this stage of the season now where most teams you pretty much know what's coming. Dealing with that's one thing, in the game. But I think for St Helens, it's very difficult to know who's playing where, and we're in round 27.
Friday night, typical Wigan, Leigh slip up and have put 62 past Cass.
Yeah, Wigan, they always seem to come good at this part of the year, don't they? And it times in well with, Bevan French been back about 3 weeks, and he's brilliant to watch. It transforms their team. You look at, and I think he inspires Jai Field. You look at some of the tries. I mean, Field's support play in recent games. You give him a sniff, he's gone. But what pace does is it takes defenders out of play. It creates space for other players, and that's what they do. And again, I think when them guys are on form, it inspires everybody else around them. I think the likes of Junior Sember and all that, they just seem to have stepped up, knowing it's coming to the business end of the game of the season. Sorry.
I think where they're at right now, there's certain teams and there's certain players that can almost put their opposition into being 10-0 down before a ball's kicked. I think when Bevan French is doing what he's doing, he takes the pressure, like Scully said, off Jay Field and Harry Smith and allows them to nail their role a bit better. I just think that they've got everything, haven't they, Wigan, at the moment? The form's heading in the right way at the right time of the year. The special players are all coming up with special players each and every week. I think they smell blood, and I think they've got a real opportunity to go back to back.
Right, Saturday, Hull 34, Warrington 2. But where Warrington are playing it, no surprise, unfortunately.
No surprise. 1 win in the last 8. It doesn't look pretty. They almost just need to get to the end of this season now, and obviously Sam and the rest of the rest of his coaching staff have got an almighty job to do next year, because for me, he's going to be probably the coach who's under the most pressure right from the off in 2026. I'm sure he'll be aware of that. The staff will be aware of it. But what that playing group has dished up isn't good enough, and there's no other way of sugarcoating it. They've let themselves down, and they've let the coach down, and they've let the group down. Maybe the coaching staff have been, maybe they've let other people down as well. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but when you put it all together, it's not good enough.
Warrington scored the first points of the game. They scored a penalty and then 34 unanswered points, and you look at the game, you look at the Hull FC tries and defence. Warrington's defence is awful. And we always say defence is an attitude thing.
It's a choice, isn't it?
And it's a choice. Whether you want to work hard and put yourself in the right position, and that's just not acceptable for a club like Warrington. Lost 7 of the last 8, which is dreadful.
Just to pick up on that, you can go into a game and you can not attack well and still win. If you go into a game and don't defend well, there's a high probability that what happened there at the weekend is going to happen, and it comes back to that. It's an attitude thing, it's a commitment thing, and if you're not prepared to do it at this level, you'll get rolled.
Saturday, Wakefield 28, Hull KR 12. What a result for Wakefield. Fully deserved as well.
Well, nobody saw it coming, did they? Let alone Willie Peters, who basically said after the game, if they play and continue to play like that, then there won't be any more trophies coming their way. Wakefield, I've said it. When they're on, their middles move the ball incredibly well.
Before against Cass
they did. But but you can almost expect that for those teams who are just trying to get into the playoffs. The way they played against Hull KR, they've got to have belief now. It's no good for Wakefield just getting in the playoffs, Scully. They have to believe that if they're in there, then they can get all the way to the end, and a win like that would have been, you know, absolutely massive for them.
And then finally on Sunday, Huddersfield Salford.
Yeah,
we keep saying it.
Box office.
A bit of a dead rubber.
No, but we keep saying it. The Salford fans deserve to know what's going on.
They do, and it's you know, it's so unfortunate what they've had to endure this year. You know, and they're still singing, they're still turning up. Yeah, it's and you know that must have been one difficult game to go to because neither team are playing for anything.
And 9 clubs have submitted formal applications as part of the Super League's expansion process, and obviously the notable absentee is Salford. So just more uncertainty for the Salford fans. The teams that have put in an application, Huddersfield and Hull, obviously from the Super League, because the first 12 is going to be on the IMG gradings, isn't it? Then Bradford, Doncaster, London. Lots going on down at London. Oldham, Toulouse, Widnes and York. So, we don't know how many teams are going to hit the IMG gradings. So we don't know how many places are probably going to be up for grabs, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's always been explained that there's still a possibility that there may only be 12. You know, coming all. You know, we're all talking about 14, but you know, I think that everybody's hoping and anticipating it's going to be 14, isn't it, really? But obviously there's a process to go through there. There's some decent names in amongst all that, isn't it? If you're going to expand it, you know, there's a case for each and every one of them. But we'll have to just wait and see how it all unfolds.
And is it some sort of admission, Salford not putting the...
I think the writing's on the wall there, Mark, really, isn't it? I don't, you know, Paul Rowley said this week that he hopes that there is a club. He's sure that there will be a club, but where that's operating, it's very difficult to see. It would almost be a bit of a mockery, wouldn't it, really, given everything that's gone on. If they were still in the top flight, you would feel just too much turmoil gone on there and not enough questions answered, I think.
Yeah, I think.
What about the teams that have?
I mean, there's some iconic names, isn't there, within rugby league? You know, from the heartlands. You know, no more so for me than Oldham as well. Great to see them and everything that you know Mike Ford and Bill Quinn have been doing over the years. Obviously, my good mate Sean Long, you know, at the helm there, and they've signed some good players over the last few years. You know, in trying to build back into Super League. Obviously London, I'd love to see a strong London side.
Darren Lockyer involved.
Darren Lockyer is obviously involved, and Campbell Gillard's been mentioned this morning as a new signing for next year. You know, if they're the kind of players that you know they're looking to bring over and expand into London again, it can only be great for the game.
So the top 12 will be decided on IMG gradings, and then the other 2 will be a panel headed up by Lord Kane.
Yes. Obviously, they've got to go through that with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we don't end up with what we've just had at Salford there, really. So, look, each and every one of them feel that they've got enough behind them to do so. Obviously, the stuff with Darren Lockyer, you know, coming over and putting a bid in to take over London Broncos, that'd be massive. You know, a huge name to a club like that. You know, I almost ended up thinking, I wonder if Scully's going to do the same as Oldham and get himself in amongst there, really. But no, look, I agree with Scully. I think a London team would be massive. You know, there's obviously that. Talking to Darren Lockyer when we had a discussion with him, he mentioned about the 150,000 Aussies that are living in London. That's the area he wants to tap into. He spoke about creating more of a off the field club, you know, the stuff that happening in and around game day, not just the game itself. And I think Hull KR has certainly shown the way this year of how to put a party on as of Leigh. So more fan sort of entertainment engagement as more than just what's on the field too.
You mentioned Oldham. We're going to show Oldham versus Halifax live on the Sportsman on Friday night. Look, about 8 o'clock kickoff. This is a playoff in the Championship, and the winners will progress to the semi-finals to take on either York or Toulouse. So live and exclusive on the Sportsman. Right then, let's turn our attention to round 27 of the Betfred Super League. Thursday night, we're going to start Hull KR, not Hull. Carl, I know that's the game you're going to be at. Hull KR versus Warrington. If they get a positive result, they win the League Leaders Shield. We'll probably win the League Leaders Shield anyway, but a positive result at home to Warrington, and they'll be lifting a trophy on Thursday night.
Yeah, I expect a massive response from Hull KR after that defeat, and you know they want to go and win the League Leaders Shield with a good performance as well, and certainly over Warrington, who have been dismal. Warrington, you expect them to try and sign off this year with some sort of credibility, but I can't see anything past a Hull KR win here, and it's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere at the Sewell Craven Park. Hull KR win.
Won the Challenge Cup, been at the top most of the season. How good have Hull KR been this term then?
They've been fantastic. I think they've been building, you know, over the last 3 or 4 years, haven't they? You know, and some real top class players, you know, who have found their way through at Hull KR. And yeah, they've been epic. And I think in the last couple of, you know, they've lost 2 of the last 4, and I think maybe lost that air of invincibility, which is not necessarily a bad thing at this time of year. You know, it maybe gives you that
better to regroup.
Kick up the backside, yeah, bit of a regroup. You know, don't fall in love with yourself. Yeah, you are Challenge Cup winners, but there's teams on your back here, and when teams like Wigan, you know, are coming into their own as well, you know, you've got to perform.
Obviously, the regular season is a trophy. Obviously, the grand final is what it's all about. But generally, the best team finishes top of the pile, and they have been the best team this year.
Yeah, look, it's a cliche, isn't it? But the table doesn't lie. You normally finish where you're meant to finish, and I think Hull KR have been the best team.
Great to watch as well.
They've been great to watch. Yeah. Early on, you know, for the sort of first half of the year, they were absolutely ruthless, and have continued that as well. A lot of people don't realise the sort of the mental side of it. You know, they haven't used too many players. A lot of them have backed up each and every week. They've won the Challenge Cup, then they've continued and stayed top of the tree. They're going to get their hands on the trophy this weekend. That'll be 2 out of 3 for them. But, you know, we saw, I think that's number 13, the different clubs now win the League Leaders Shield, something like that. Maybe it's less, maybe it's about 9, sorry.
But only 4 won the grand final.
But only 4 of them won the grand finals.
I think with Hull KR as well, it's difficult to keep that, you know, right at the top of the tree all year. You're going to get dips, like every team has it. You know, they played more games than anybody getting to the final of the Challenge Cup. So I don't think it's a bad thing, as I said, that they've, you know, they've been pegged back a bit, but you know, we obviously know what they're capable of from what we've seen this year.
You're also in Hull on Thursday night, Carl, but you've got Hull versus Catalan. Hull just need to do their job, Hull FC, and then just hope that Wakefield slip up at Salford.
Yeah, that's it. You know, it doesn't. That's the message for them, isn't it? You've only got to. You've got to win. You've got to win against a spirited Catalan side that'll look like they'll want to finish the season with another win. So yeah, I mean, it's all to play for really for John Cartwright's men. However, destiny's out of their own hands, and again, that's because somewhere down the line they'll have majorly slipped up. I think they lost to Huddersfield and Castleford. Maybe they look back and regret that opportunity, but you know, it is out of their hands really, Mark.
Right, 4 games on Friday to talk about. Leigh versus Huddersfield. Leigh will want to win this to make sure they finish third. Yeah,
I think it's in Leigh's hands, isn't it, to finish third and get a home, you know, elimination game. I can't see anything past a convincing Leigh win. Everything's for them to play for. Huddersfield, you know, their season's over. You know, come 10 o'clock on Friday. So I just think they're in great form, and they'll be looking to take that now into the semi-finals.
Salford versus Wakefield.
I mean, look, there's a story there. Paul Rowley must be out of telling stories, but his last one is that this could be the last time that that we see Salford in some sort of
beat Warrington. Lucky against Catalan.
No, and they were winning against Huddersfield. I think they were 8-0 up at one point, weren't they? So there's a lot of pressure on Wakefield, really, isn't there? You know, I know it sounds a bit daft, really, to say.
Because you'd expect Hull to win the night before, so the pressure is on Wakefield.
Yeah,
isn't it?
you would absolutely. And again, we're going to get a spirited Salford side, no doubt about it. Final game of the the season after it's almost a miracle that they're even at this stage of the season, given what was being thrown at them. But I can't see Wakefield slipping up. I think Wakefield get the job done and they end up in the 6th and play Leigh in the first weekend.
And then it's St Helens Castleford. For Saints, it's just get a bit of momentum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still working on those combinations, as mad as it sounds like in the last league game of the season, to try and put some sort of form together before the knockout stages. We know they finished in 5th. They're going to be away, likely to be at Headingley for the elimination game. And they just need a big performance. Castleford, I think they got put in the place last week against Wigan, didn't they? I can't see anything other than a convincing Saints win, but it's got to be a good performance that they can take into play against one of the big teams.
Scully, I was just, if you were Wello, do you think would you rest your players? Do you know what I mean? They've had a slog, haven't they? Like every team's had a slog. It's going to make no difference.
It's going to make no difference to the table, but I think you need to work out what you're doing, because I still don't think they've worked out what they're doing, and whether this game will be any different. But then you do talk about your likes of Matty Lees and guys who have absolutely grafted all year. Is this an opportunity? In the forwards, it's maybe an easier place to rest, providing you've got the numbers to fill them in. We saw Jack Wellsby going in the back of the pack last week because there was a number of players out. George Delaney's out again, unfortunately, with disciplinary. He misses the Castleford game. So, he's not blessed with a massive number of backup to rest players, and you want that continuity going into what's going to be likely an away game at Leeds.
And finally, Wigan Leeds. In theory, if Hull KR slip up on Thursday night, Wigan could win the league leaders. It's currently 41 points difference between Hull KR and Wigan Warriors. That's 41 points in Hull KR's favour. And I think with Leeds' defence, I don't think you'd see Leeds shipping that many, would you? So,
no, I don't think so.
I think Hull KR will do the business on Thursday night, personally.
I mean, it would make it interesting, wouldn't it, right? If Warrington did win.
It'd be nice if they'd been on the same night and the helicopter between the two.
Yeah.
Instead I'll be getting an Uber to Hull KR's ground.
But you're right, Mark. I can't see, even if that happened, you would... Are Wigan got to put 36 plus on Leeds? I very much doubt it. Leeds obviously stinging after last week, defended so much better this season.
No, I know it's sport, but let's just presume Hull KR do the business. So how do Wigan go into Friday night then?
Well, they've just got to throw everything at it, haven't they? They've got to move the ball around, they've got to try and make it chaos.
Is it about getting momentum again for the playoffs, week off coming?
I think completely the opposite of what Paul Mullins needs. I think Matty Peet could rest whoever he wants. I think Wigan, they're playing well, they're in form, they're confident. The way they play, it's based around pace and moving the ball. Wigan have always prided themselves on being quite aggressive in defence.
But then it's 2 weeks off. But then it'd be 2 weeks off.
That's
probably
the
too
million dollar
much,
question. But then hindsight's a great thing. You pick up a couple of injuries on key players in a kind of a dead rubber game.
Do you put Bevan French in Cornwall?
Do you regret?
But who's to say Leeds aren't going to rest any? Somebody will throw a curveball in there, guarantee you. Somebody will throw a curveball in there where the team that you think that's going to roll out won't roll out. It's that.
But Leeds might be thinking, well, Leigh might slip up and we couldn't finish third.
Does it really matter? Yeah, I suppose that St Helens have beaten Leeds. I think is it 3 of the last 4 or something like that. I don't think Saints have lost it.
Depends who you want to play. Do you want to finish third and play Saints? Do you play Wakefield, or do you want to finish 4th and play the Saints?
Don't we just love it though? That at this point of the year we don't know what's going on. It's great.
I think that's a great thing with the playoffs and
we do know 2 of the semi-finalists, Hull KR and Wigan. And they're going to be both at home, and they're going to both have a week off. Now that is a massive advantage, isn't it?
It is a massive advantage. This time of year, just to freshen your troops and have that week off, but also that home advantage in playoff rugby to get to a grand final in front of your home crowd is enormous.
Yeah. Okay, so we're discussing the permutations going into the final round. Look, there's not many. In theory, Hull KR Wigan can win. Obviously, the League Leaders Shield, then Wakefield and Hull are battling for that 6th spot, and then obviously Leigh and Leeds can flip. So there's not that much permutations left to be going to round 27. Who's going to contest the grand final come October?
Hull KR Wigan. I said it right from the ball was kicked at the start. I think the progression Hull KR have been doing, Wigan obviously coming into it as champions. If you'd have asked me where they would have finished in the table, I'm not quite sure I would have went as it is. I thought maybe Wigan would have finished top and Hull KR just slightly second, but I think it would be a travesty given what we've seen all season if it wasn't Hull KR and Wigan in a grand final. However, there is some teams in there that can certainly buck that trend.
Come on then.
No. I think definitely Wigan will be there, and I think depending on who wins and the permutations of the semi-final, if it was Hull KR Leigh in a semi-final, I think it's a coin toss, and I think Leigh are gonna have a go. So I'm interested to watch these next 2 weeks pan out.
Fascinating. So it's round 27 this week. Gents, thanks for coming in and well done this week for the used cycle. Massive effort raising money for Rugby League Cares. Don't forget the live game on the Sportsman on Friday night. Oldham versus Halifax. It's a playoff in the Championship. Oldham versus Halifax, and the winners will go to the semi-final next week. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your Rugby League.
This is my time.